everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are here to read some of my favorite booktubers' favorite books of 2025. This idea just came to me a little while ago tonight, actually, like just a couple of hours ago. Because I realized that, as I've been watching, like I said, some of my favorite booktubers' videos about their favorite books of 2025, I've been adding those books to my TBR and like immediately borrowing them from my library, from my Libby app that my library uses. And so I realized that I could document my experience reading these books for you all, and hopefully some of these books end up being new favorites for me as well. So first, I did want to briefly discuss two books that I've recently read that I was influenced to read by a couple of my favorite booktubers. So the first one is The Women on Platform 2 by Laura Anthony. This is a historical fiction novel that I was influenced to read by both Christy and Tori. By the way, any booktuber I mention in this video will of course be linked down in the description below or on the side or wherever the description box is nowadays. So this centers around three main characters. We're time jumping between 2023 and we're following one major character, Saoirse, and then the 1960s, the late 1960s into the early 1970s, where we are centering around Maura and Bernie, who are two women who end up becoming best friends. And this is a historical fiction that centers around the fight for women's rights and the right to legal contraception in Ireland in, like I said, the late 60s into the early 70s. So in the past timeline, we have Maura, who has just recently gotten married to this doctor named Christy, but we are seeing that he is not a great husband. He starts to get more and more abusive towards her. And while at first she wants nothing more than to be a mother and to have children with him, as the months and years go by in their marriage, she is terrified of the idea of bringing a child into the world. And then we have Bernie, who is a mother of three, and she is now pregnant with her fourth child. And she is in a situation where like her and her husband aren't super wealthy. It's getting harder and harder to support their ever-growing family, and she's having complications with this fourth pregnancy. And so the two of them could definitely benefit from legal contraception. And throughout the book, we're seeing how messed up the laws were, even going into the 1970s in Ireland when it came to women's rights. Like I said, contraception, birth control, a woman's right to choose once they become married. And even in the 1970s, like I said, like it still was illegal for a woman to work once they got married, things like that. And so then we are in 2023 with Saoirse, and we're seeing that she is engaged to this man who wants to have kids, who wants to have a family, and she doesn't. And so they, this is kind of an argument that they've been having for a while now of, how can our relationship go forward when we clearly have a very different view of what we want for the future. And so this was just beautifully, beautifully written. I can totally see why both Christy and Tori loved this book so much. I was so invested in this story, and I love historical fiction novels like this that educate me about a part of history that I had no clue about. It definitely makes me want to do my own research about women's rights and laws that were put in place to protect women, both in our country and in countries abroad, especially given the context of, a couple of years ago, Roe v. Wade being overturned and things like that. So, women's rights and autonomy, unfortunately, it is still a topic of conversation even to this day. I just, yeah, I loved this so, so much. The writing was stunning. I loved these characters. Another book that I very recently read, actually I just finished a couple hours ago. This is The Compound by Aisling Rawle. I had to look up how to pronounce this author's name, and I'm still not certain that I pronounced it right, so I'm sorry for that. But this is also a debut novel for this author, and I cannot wait to see what this author comes out with next. So this book is completely different from The Women on Platform 2. I was influenced to read this because Kayla from Books and Lala featured this in her Best Books of 2025 video. And I was just so intrigued because this is definitely very different from, I guess, pretty much everything else I've like ever read, I guess, or at least like most of the books that I've read. So this centers around a competition type reality show. This gives me vibes of shows like Love Island and Love is Blind combined with Big Brother, combined with like other competition type reality shows. And I'm actually going to read an excerpt from the like official synopsis because this sums up the plot way better than I ever could. So this is Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, Winner Takes All. Lily, a bored, beautiful 20-something, wakes up on a remote desert compound alongside 19 other contestants on a popular reality TV show. To win, she must outlast her housemates while competing in challenges for luxury rewards, such as champagne and lipstick, and communal necessities to outfit their new home like food, appliances, and a front door. The cameras are catching all their angles, good and bad, but Lily has no desire to leave. Why would she when the world outside is falling apart? And so this does have a little bit of like a dystopian twist, I guess you could say, because there are plenty of mentions made throughout this book that the world outside of this compound is kind of messed up, though it doesn't sound all that far off from the world that we are currently living in by any means. But I will say, and this seems to be a frustration amongst some readers, we never get any like super concrete details about what the outside world is like, and I truly believe that is on purpose because you are really supposed to be in this bubble of this reality show with Lily, with our main character, and in my opinion, what's happening on the outside doesn't really matter when it comes to this story. I mean, I'm definitely curious. I would love to know more about what's going on the outside. I mean, they mentioned like several wars and things like that, but at the same time, like I said, it's just like not the focus of this story. And I loved this as well. I gave it 5 stars. I love how invested I got in this competition. I am not someone who loves reality shows. I like randomly watched a season of Love is Blind a couple of years ago just because like it just so happened that a new season was coming out one time when I was hanging out with one of my best friends, and she watches the show pretty religiously, and so she was like, hey, do you want to watch the first episode of this season with me? And I was like, sure. And so I did. I believe that was season 8. I got into season 8 of Love is Blind specifically because of my best friend. But other than that, the only other reality show that I remotely keep up with is 90 Day Fiancé on TLC, and that is also because that is a show that both my mom and one of my sisters keeps up with. So other than that, that is not typically a genre that I watch all that often. But I have to say, like, I was so invested in this competition, and you really feel like you are on this compound with these 20 contestants as one by one they are being eliminated from the show. And it's just so fascinating, the different discussions and themes that are brought up about reality television in general, late stage capitalism, consumerism, all of those things, all while, like I said, the outside world is really messed up. And Lily, our main character, I mean, I mentioned that as a part of the synopsis, like, she is truly looking to escape all of that by being on this show. That's kind of her main motivation. And while reading this, I just found myself completely forgetting about my life, and I was just so invested in how this competition was going to end, to see, you know, who was going to win and how that was going to happen. There's quite a few twists and turns along the way that just kind of not necessarily keep you on the edge of your seat, but just keep you super engaged. So I definitely would recommend at least giving this book a try, especially if you are someone that loves reality television. You will definitely get just as invested in this novel as your favorite TV shows. But even if you're someone who doesn't like that genre, I still think that you could enjoy this book. So I would definitely recommend at least reading the first couple of chapters for yourself to see if this is for you. So I definitely think this has been a hit or miss book for a lot of people, but for me, it was a super hit. And like I said, this is also a debut novel, and I cannot wait to see what else this author comes out with. So, books on my immediate TBR. I mean, I guess I'll just talk about these books for this vlog as I get to them. I can tell you that I have 3 books checked out on my Libby app. I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this, but I just wanted to show you guys what my Libby app is looking like. I have Witchcraft for Wayward Girls checked out by Grady Hendrix. So that is a historical fiction / horror novel. We have The Wedding People by Alison Espach or Espach. I believe that's a literary fiction. And then we have None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which is a mystery thriller. And so I'll talk about these books kind of as I read them, but I'm super excited for this vlog because, as you can see, I have had 2 5-star reads already by taking recommendations from my favorite booktubers. So I'm excited to see where this vlog goes. All right, hey guys, what's up? I have an update for this vlog. So last night, I started Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. So this came highly recommended by Chandler from Chandler Ainsley. I will of course have her channel linked down in the description below. She somewhat recently, I feel like she did this vlog probably like a few months ago, but she did a vlog where she read the 10 best horror novels of 2025 according to the Goodreads Choice Awards. And so actually, fun fact, this ended up winning the Goodreads Choice Award for Best Horror Novel of 2025, which is a little surprising because Stephen King came out with a book last year. So I would have thought that he would have won because, I mean, obviously he is a very popular and acclaimed horror author, but I'm really happy to see that this won, especially now that I'm currently reading it. I have read, this is now my 4th book by Grady Hendrix. One of them I gave 4 stars. That was My Best Friend's Exorcism. And then I gave The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires and How to Sell a Haunted House 5 stars. I really enjoy Grady Hendrix's writing. I think he is one of the very few male authors that can actually be trusted to write novels with female main characters. He just seems to understand women on a level that 99% of men don't. So, you know, usually when I'm reading a novel written by a man with a female main character, I tend to like cringe a bit. Or kind of roll my eyes a bit, but like, no, Grady Hendrix gets it. This is essentially centering around this group of teenage girls who have been sent away to this home for unwed mothers in, I think, exactly 1970 or the early 1970s. And Grady Hendrix wrote an introduction to this novel talking about why he decided to write this book, why he decided to center around this subject matter. I do find it weird that the audiobook doesn't include that introduction because I feel like you need that context going into this book. So that's kind of weird, unless the audiobook puts it at the end of the book. I don't think so because it's an introduction, but anyways, basically Grady Hendrix talks about how he's learned in recent years that a couple of members of his own family were sent to these homes for unwed mothers. So essentially these homes came into popularity in the late 1940s into the early 1970s once Roe v. Wade went through. And this was like pretty widely accepted that if you had a teenage daughter and she got pregnant, you would send her to one of these homes. She would live out the rest of her pregnancy, give birth, and give that baby up for adoption, and then come back home as if nothing happened. Like, that's a huge theme in this book, is the way they promise these girls that it'll be as if nothing happened and they can just live their lives normally. But of course, if you go through something like that, life is never going to be the same again. So this book came highly recommended by Chandler. This was, I believe this was her favorite book that she read for that vlog, and I can totally see why. I'm 36% of the way through and I am absolutely obsessed. Oh my God, this is so good. Let me give you a brief synopsis. We have our main character, Fern. That's not her real name. These girls go by aliases basically when they're in this home for unwed mothers, or home for wayward girls. This home is, I believe, near St. Augustine in Florida. And our main character is, I believe she's 15 and she is pregnant, and her father put her in this home to live out the rest of her pregnancy, to give birth. And she has been persuaded to sign her rights away for her baby. So her baby will be given up for adoption once she gives birth. And this definitely reads as more like, I would say, historical fiction, especially the first like 20-ish% or so. And so the real catalyst for this plot is that about, I don't know, 25% or so into the book, they meet this mysterious old woman who is the librarian of this bookmobile that comes to the home every couple of weeks. And this librarian gives Fern this like scuffed up old paperback that ends up being a book for witchcraft. And so basically Fern and the three girls that are closest to her in this home find themselves dabbling in witchcraft, and things go on from there. Oh, there's Lena Lou. Hey Lena, say hi to everyone in the vlog. But yeah, I'm absolutely obsessed. I devoured the first 36% of this last night. I'm actually in the middle of reading something else, and I was reading some of that last night as well, but all I wanted to do was just read this book. It is so good. It is definitely shaping up to be my personal favorite Grady Hendrix novel. We have had a couple of scenes of body horror, but those scenes were both pretty quick and we moved on relatively quickly from that. But I definitely think we are gonna get into some unhinged horror. Definitely by the second half of this book. I think that Grady Hendrix does a really great job of writing like slow burn, slow build horror novels, and yeah, I'm obsessed. So like, so far we're like 3 for 3. I definitely could see myself giving this 5 stars. I got that 5-star feeling like the second I started this book. So yeah, thank you Chandler for talking about this book in that horror vlog, because I don't think I would have picked up this book as soon as I did without your recommendation. All right, hey guys, it's been a few days since my last update. Let's start with discussing Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I finished this a couple days ago, because yeah, today's Sunday. I think I finished it Friday. And when I first finished it, I gave it 5 stars. But I think upon further reflection, I'm gonna settle on like a 4.5 star or even a 4 star. I think for now 4.5 star. I really enjoyed this. I definitely see why Chandler loved this book so much. But for me, I have loved a couple of Grady Hendrix's other books a bit more than this one. Specifically, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, and then How to Sell a Haunted House. Loved both of those books, gave them 5 stars. This one I ended up really enjoying. I feel like this is historical fiction meets horror, but this is not like a super scary, horrific book. Like, there are a couple of scenes with body horror, so just know that going in. But other than that, there's nothing like particularly horrifying about this book, except what these teenage girls are going through, right? Going through pregnancy and childbirth, and they all end up giving their children away because they're essentially coerced into doing so. Teenagers, children, literal children, going through pregnancy and childbirth. Childbirth is so horrifying to me, and I feel like we as a society gloss over it as like this beautiful miracle, and it is beautiful because we, you know, you're bringing new life into the world, but like, it's truly horrific. And the way that childbirth is described in this novel in particular, like, oh no. Absolutely not. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I liked our characters. I liked how the witchcraft was brought into the story, but at the same time, I could have used more from that subplot, more from this witchcraft subplot. There were a few scenes throughout the book where we see, it's basically this like core group of 4 girls who become close friends and get into witchcraft. We do have a few scenes where they're, you know, doing spells, things like that. But I actually kind of wanted more witchcraft, and there is a character that gets introduced into the story about like 25% into the book, who ends up kind of being their mentor in all things witchcraft. And I don't know, I wanted more from that plot line too. I don't know. Like, so that's why it's definitely not a 5-star read, because to me, like, I just wasn't obsessed with the witchcraft subplot, and I really wanted to be, because I love the idea of witchcraft and witches, especially in horror novels. And I really think it's detrimental to the reader's experience that the author's note and the introduction are completely cut out of the audiobook. I really do. I think that those sections really add a lot to the book and a lot to the story, and I don't understand why the publisher wouldn't include those in the audiobook. So for that reason alone, I would recommend either immersive reading this, so listening to the audiobook while following along with the ebook or physical copy like I did, or just reading an ebook or physical copy. But I think that's all I wanted to say. Oh, the epilogue of this book took me out. Man, Grady Hendrix is one of the very few, I think he might be the only horror author that I've read whose books make me cry. I cried reading the end of How to Sell a Haunted House, and I cried reading this epilogue. Oh my God, I loved the way that this wrapped up the story. Basically, we time jump years into the future. I think basically to like present day, if I'm not mistaken. And we're still in the POV of the main character of the book, but many years later. And I just think that this really wrapped up the story in a beautiful and heart-wrenching and heartbreaking way. I also started None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. This is my next book for this vlog. So what's interesting about this book is that this did not come recommended to me by a booktuber that I follow. This actually came highly recommended from one of my best friends in the whole wide world. This was one of her favorite books that she read in 2025, and she specifically loved the audiobook and told me that she thought I would really enjoy this book as well. So I am about 23% into this. I'm about 2.5 hours into the audiobook. I have read a couple of books by Lisa Jewell in the past, but I've never been blown away by her books before. I gave one of her books, I think, 4 stars. I think that was called Watching You. I did like that book. And another one of her books I gave 3 stars. However, this book so far is shaping up to be to me, a better book than those past titles that I've read by her. So this essentially follows these two women. We have Alex and Josie. They are birthday twins. So they were born on the same day in the same year at the same hospital, and they now live about a mile away from each other. So their lives have been, you know, I guess you could say really close together in a lot of ways, but their main connection is that they are birthday twins. Alex runs a very successful podcast, and she befriends Josie, and Josie kind of persuades Alex to create this new podcast series about Josie, about her birthday twin, and kind of deep diving into Josie's life and how Josie wants to move forward in the future, how she wants to change her life for the better going forward. And so what we're seeing is we're kind of jumping between a novel-like narrative where we're either in Alex's POV or Josie's POV, but then there are also short sections interspersed throughout from a Netflix documentary that has been made sometime later, you know, looking back on this whole situation between Alex and Josie. And apparently there have been a couple of murders along the way in their story. And so that is what this Netflix documentary is centering on. So first and foremost, the audiobook, I completely agree with my best friend. It's top notch. We have a full cast of narrators for all the different characters that we are hearing from throughout the story. And I'm also really enjoying the production of this audiobook. When we are listening to the Netflix documentary, there are background noises and there's like intro music and things like that that really adds a lot to the reading experience. And I'm really enjoying this so far. Lisa Jewell, to me, at least the books that I've read from her in the past, they're more mystery. They're not so much thrillers. However, I could see this book leaning more towards true mystery thriller for sure. And so I'm just really intrigued to see, you know, how this story unfolds as we learn more and more about these characters. And I think that's gonna be it for this update. I'm thinking that I want to read 2 or 3 more books for this vlog. I already have a couple books in mind, and then I think I want to get a third book, a third recommendation from another booktuber. So yeah, with that being said, I will talk to you guys later. Hey guys, what's up? I am trying another angle for vlogging, for filming. We'll see if I like it. I feel like the lighting is a little weird where I am, but it is what it is. It is the perfect angle, however, to see this little cutie patootie over here. This is Lena. She is my sister's dog, in case you haven't watched any of my recent content. She has been featured quite a bit in recent videos. I am congested, so that's why my voice sounds like that. So sorry. Let's do a quick little update. I finished None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell a couple days ago. Really enjoyed this, gave it 4 stars. I definitely think this is Lisa Jewell's best book, at least of the ones that I've read. I've read a couple of her other books, but I gave them 3-ish stars. I didn't really love them. But this one, like, the mystery element really had me hooked from page 1 pretty much to the end. I do think that I had a more enjoyable reading experience in the beginning, you know, towards the middle, even towards the end before things were revealed, because it was just such an enjoyable experience for me to try to figure out what exactly was going on with these characters. And some of the reveals were satisfying, some of them weren't. Some of them I definitely guessed, but overall, I think this is a really solid mystery thriller. The audiobook really is spectacular. There is a full cast of narrators. I would definitely personally recommend going the route of immersive reading this book. So listening to the audiobook and following along with either a physical or ebook copy, because the physical copy or the ebook copy features text that is just left out of the audiobook. Like I said in my last update, this centers around a podcast and then a Netflix documentary about said podcast and about all the things that happen. And so in the passages where we are listening to the Netflix documentary, there are descriptions of like what the people who are being interviewed look like, where they're being interviewed, just like descriptions of like how the documentary is shot. Things that I think add context and make your reading experience that much more like immersive and enjoyable. And the audiobook just left those descriptions out. So yeah, I would just recommend doing like an immersive read for this book. I am now 50% into my next book for this vlog. I got yet another recommendation from Chandler Ainsley. And I was gonna try my best and get recommendations from different booktubers or people who follow me, things like that. But this was a book that when she talked about it, it just sounded so good to me that I had to pick it up for this vlog. This is The Wedding People by Ellison Espak. What's interesting about this book is that I've definitely seen this cover floating around the internet. I think that this book is, I want to say a couple years old at this point. Maybe it came out in 2024, if I'm not mistaken. And also for some reason, I thought this was either a romance novel or a mystery thriller. And I don't know if I was just like judging the cover. It's more like general fiction, literary fiction, I would say, for sure. And this book just sounded so good to me, honestly, truly because of the mental state I am currently in. I am not doing well mentally at all. And this is about Phoebe, our main character, who at the beginning of the book, she has decided to take her own life. And in the first, I would say like 20% or so, we get a really clear picture of why she has made that decision, and what has become of her life now that she is now 40, and lots of different things have happened in her life basically, and now she is just extremely lonely. And I am someone who has definitely dealt with suicide ideation in my life, in various times in my life. This is also kind of like an absurd novel, definitely has like some satire to it as well. It's a very interesting vibe that I don't think I've quite read before. But basically, you know, Phoebe decides to go on this like one last trip, one last hurrah before she takes her own life. And so she books a room in this like Victorian mansion turned boutique hotel in Newport, Rhode Island. And when she shows up, she realizes that she is the only person staying there that is not a part of the wedding people, not part of the wedding party. Basically, this whole week, there are wedding events going on for Lila the bride and Gary the groom. She's never met these people in her life, but she basically ends up getting entangled in their wedding and participating in wedding events, and things go on from there. I'm loving this so far. I am really, really enjoying it. Once again, Chandler, your recommendations are on point. First of all, what I'm noticing more and more as I'm reading it is that this book has a lot of like snappy, like quick bantery dialogue that gives me vibes of shows like Gilmore Girls and Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. If you've watched those shows, definitely has that type of quick dialogue that is just really entertaining to listen to. I am listening to the audiobook while following along with an ebook copy, and yeah, those parts of the book are just really fun to listen to. I also love the absurdity of this story, the satirical elements too, of Phoebe becoming friends with the bride Lila basically, and that's how she gets entangled in this wedding. And I also just really relate to Phoebe, our main character, a lot. Yeah, this is just such an interesting vibe to it. I really like the way that it's written. And I'm really looking forward to reading the second half of this. So that's gonna be it for this update. I actually have another book that I need to jump into today because we are doing a live show discussion tomorrow afternoon for Dreaming of You by Lisa Kleypas, as part of our Wallflowers read along, our Lisa Kleypas read along. So I actually need to finish this today. I have about 5 hours left of this audiobook, so I definitely think I can do that. And then I want to jump right back into The Wedding People because, like I said, I am just loving it. All right, what is up, my dudes? It has been well over a week, probably 2 weeks, if I'm being honest, since I've updated this vlog. I have been very busy, and I'm also getting into a reading slump. I can feel it happening, and it makes me sad. But that also can happen when I'm really busy because my mind is on other things, not on reading books. But let's give you guys another update. I finished The Wedding People probably over a week ago at this point, and I really, really enjoyed this. I do think I'm gonna give it 4.5 stars. It's not quite a perfect 5-star read for me, and I think that's mainly because I enjoyed the ending, and by the ending, I mean the last like 10% or so. I enjoyed the ending, but upon reflection, it just wasn't nearly as strong as the beginning of the book, or even like the first half of the book. I do feel like the second half, while enjoyable, it just like wasn't, yeah, it wasn't as like memorable, I guess I would say, or interesting. Yeah, but I did really enjoy it. Like I said, there's a reason why I'm giving it 4.5 stars, but unfortunately not a 5-star, which means the only 5-star read that I have found in this vlog was when I read The Compound, and I didn't even really read that as a part of this vlog. I just discussed it in my first update, but yeah. So I think I am going to close out this video with one more booktuber favorite, and I decided to go with a book and a series that I have heard so many of my bookish friends, as well as just people that I follow on BookTube and Bookstagram, just rave and rave and rave and rave about. And I've been meaning to pick this series up for quite some time, so I thought that this video would be the perfect time to do so, and that is Binding 13, book 1 in the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh. Now, it may not look like it, but this is actually a very chunky book. It's just that they used like thin Bible pages, but this book is over 600 pages. All of the books in this series are super, super long. So I'm only on page 67, chapter 6. This is gonna take me a long time to finish. I have accepted that. Let's talk about the plot of this book. I've heard so many booktubers and bookstagrammers, etc., you know, rave and rave about how angsty these romances are. These characters go through a lot of trauma. And in the first 67 pages, I'm already seeing the trauma for sure. So this first book is about Johnny and Shannon. We have Shannon, we get her POV first. She is 15 years old. This series is like, I don't know, kind of YA. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, my discussion of like what exact genre this book is. But anyways, Shannon is 15. She has been bullied like so much in school. She was going to public school. This takes place in Ireland in 2005, by the way. And so the bullying just got to a point where her family really had no choice but to shell out the cash to enroll Shannon at a private high school, which is Tommen College, the namesake of the series. Then we have Johnny. He is 17, so there's definitely a bit of an age gap between the two of them, and I think he's about to be 18 soon, so that's a little dicey, I guess you could say. He is a very much like celebrated rugby player at Toman College, and he is suffering from a chronic injury from playing rugby. And one day, this is on Shannon's first day of school at Toman College, he accidentally hits her in the head with a rugby ball. And so that is their meet cute. And so I'll just read a part of the synopsis to give the rest of the setup. It says, but when Shannon meets the notorious Johnny Kavanaugh on her first day, her plans to keep a low profile are at serious risk. As they fall into a complicated relationship and grapple with their undeniable chemistry, hidden pain and complicated secrets threaten to be their undoing. But Johnny won't give up on Shannon, no matter what it might cost them both. So far I'm enjoying this. I am not immediately hooked, but I just need to keep trucking along with this book. I actually haven't read anything from this in a couple of days because I was working on another book for another vlog that I'm filming at the same time as this one. But so far I'm enjoying this story. I am finding this book to be confusing though in terms of genre. Like I mentioned a little earlier. Okay, this is labeled as young adult fiction on this book, and on the spine it has the Bloom logo and then it says young adult. And I can see why it would be labeled as young adult because the characters that we're following are young adults. However, just in the first 67 pages, there has been a lot of very explicit language around things like sex and like specifically having to do with Johnny's injury. Like he has a chronic groin injury and he is being very explicit about how that affects his groin area. So is this young adult? Like, please leave a comment down below and let me know. I feel like this is adult, but we just happen to be following younger characters. I don't know. I'm confused. Like I said, just the language used and stuff is not language that you would find in a young adult novel. Like, I'm confused. So with that being said, I'm just going to continue reading this, and I'll probably give you guys a couple of updates throughout because like I said, it's over 600 pages. This is going to take me a while for sure. But yeah, I will talk to you guys later. It's been a few days since my last update. I am dealing with allergy issues right now because we are dealing with very high pollen in my area. Like that sucks because I'm in the middle of performances for Frozen right now, so oof. But anyways, I wanted to give you guys an update about Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I've read quite a bit more of this book since my last update. I am now on page 240, that is chapter 26. I am a little over 40% of the way through this book, and holy shit, this book is so long. Like, I feel like I've been reading this book forever. I've listened to 11 hours of the audiobook, and I am only 40% into the book. I'm pretty sure total, this is like a 30-hour audiobook because the audiobook is split into two parts. Part 1 is 16 hours. I want to say part 2 is like 14 hours, something like that. So this is just going to take me a very long time to finish for sure. I wish I was getting through this quicker, but I'm also in the middle of like 3 other things right now because I'm reading Heated Rivalry for another vlog that I'm working on, and then I am also reading a thriller right now. I'm reading a Harry Potter fan fiction right now, so this is not the only thing that I'm working on right now, but I am enjoying this. I am. This is giving angsty YA, you know? I really don't have much to report. I like the characters. I like Johnny and Shannon. I am, of course, very entertained by Gibbsy, which I know is a very beloved character in this series. I'm just liking how this story is evolving, and we're seeing that, you know, as I suspected, both main characters are dealing with very real problems in their lives, and they're starting to have very real feelings for each other. I will say I really like how slow burn this romance is going to be, especially because Shannon at this point of the book, well, at the beginning of the book, she was 15 and Johnny was 17, and I believe they're still those same ages where I stopped. I don't think that much time has passed so far since the beginning of this book, but I really like how slow burn it is because of this, you know, kind of age gap, and there's that forbidden element to it because of the age gap. And I love me some good, you know, friends to lovers romance, you know? And so that's definitely what this is giving. Yeah, enjoying this, but this is just gonna take me forever to finish. This book is like 600 pages, and like I said, I'm only on page 240, and I have been reading this for like well over a week, probably well over 2 weeks at this point. So I think I'm just gonna do one more update for this vlog once I finish this book. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Hello, my beautiful bookish besties. It has been at least like 2 weeks since my last update for this vlog, because that is how long it has taken me to get through and finish the rest of Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I'm gonna get to a final reading update in a second. I did want to give you guys some little updates about my life. I recently finished up with the production of Frozen that I was in, where I played Olaf, and it was just such a blast. I've always loved the character of Olaf ever since I first saw the film back in 2013, and it's just so cool and so crazy that I've had the opportunity now to bring this character to life and to learn a bit about puppetry along the way. And oh, it was just one of the most magical experiences that I've ever had on stage. And the audience's reactions were adorable, hilarious, absolutely everything that I could have dreamed of. So it's definitely bittersweet to say goodbye to Olaf and to say goodbye to Frozen, but I have faith that I will be able to play that character again. I really, really think I'll have another opportunity to play Olaf at some point in my life. At least I really hope so. And so I actually very recently auditioned for a production of Mary Poppins that another local theater is putting on this summer. And I just got the email Sunday night, today's Tuesday, that I am going to be Mary Poppins in Mary Poppins the Musical, which is so, so, so exciting. So fun that I'm going from one Disney musical to another that has a totally different vibe to it, but it's Disney all the same and magical and fun. And this is gonna be a challenging character to play for sure. Mary Poppins is definitely a marathon kind of role. She is the lead, she is the title role at the end of the day, and so It's definitely going to be a challenge, but so fun, and I'm just so excited for that. So that's gonna happen this summer. Rehearsals start at the end of May, but yeah, 2 Disney musicals in 1 year. But I did want to just share that news with you guys because you guys are my special bookish friends and I love you all so much. So let's do a final reading update for this vlog. I have been filming this vlog for 2 months, my dudes. 2 months, because I started filming this vlog at the beginning of February. It is now the very end of March. It is March 31st. Oh my God. But that should give you an idea of how long it has taken me to get through this monster of a book. Doesn't look like a monster, but it's over 600 pages and the font is also really tiny. And the audiobook was like, I think almost 30 hours total. This audiobook is broken up into like a part 1 audiobook and a part 2 audiobook. And yeah, it's very long. That is my biggest takeaway about this book. And it seems like all of the books in this series are super duper long. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I didn't love this. I didn't love it, and I expected to love it. I probably went into this with a little too high of expectations because of so many of my bookish friends raving about this series. I think my takeaway is that I like these characters. I like Johnny and Shannon. I really like the side characters, like their best friends, their friend group for sure. But this is a very character-driven story. Absolutely. Definitely not plot-driven. And I like these characters. I don't love them. Like, I am invested in them and their story, but I'm not like so super invested and super obsessed, if that makes sense. So, because I don't like absolutely like ride or die for these characters, that definitely contributed to this reading experience just feeling very long and very drawn out. I'm also in a reading slump right now, so I probably was only reading on average like a couple chapters of this book per day. I've also been reading other things while working my way through this. And yeah, I just think that I would have read this book faster had I been more invested in the characters. And I knew going into this that this was going to be a very emotional book. I knew that there are dark things happening to these characters, especially to Shannon, our heroine in particular. She has a mother who neglects her and her siblings, and then her father is very physically abusive to her, to the point where the very end of this book includes a scene where he nearly beats Shannon to death. Like, you should know that before going in. Very dark things are happening, right? And after a while, that gets very hard to read. And I know that all the books in this series are going to be just as emotional, if not even more emotional and dark than this book was. And so I just don't know that I'm on board with this series. I don't know that I'm ready or willing to read more books like this. I do think I'm gonna give Keeping 13, I think that's the title of book 2. I think I'm gonna give that book a chance. I think I'll at least start that next book because I have a physical copy of it. I bought a physical copy of it like last year. But at the moment, I am not like absolutely obsessed with this series. I'm definitely kind of on the fence. I would say that this is like a 3.5 star book, mainly because of just how long this book is. I feel like if this book was like at least 100 pages shorter, I might have given it a 4 star. I don't know. But yeah, very conflicting feelings. And I still don't know if this is young adult or new adult or what. I'm gonna say this is new adult because of how graphic some things are in this, how like graphic the language is and how explicitly things are described. But that being said, there's no like explicit sex scenes in this book. But I don't know. I already discussed that in like my last update about this book, so I'm not gonna harp on that too much more. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this vlog where I read some of my favorite booktubers' favorite books of 2025. I definitely expected to at least read like one 5-star book in this video, and that did not happen. We got close with a couple like 4.5 books, but yeah, no 5-star books. I have read a couple of 5-star books recently, which is good, but I'm also definitely in a reading slump, and I'm just finding that I'm not super motivated to pick up anything at the moment. So if you guys have recommendations for like fast-paced books and or books that are really gonna draw me in and keep my attention and keep me invested, please leave them down in the comments below, because yeah, your girl is struggling with reading at the moment, and this book definitely didn't help. So that's gonna be it for this video. If you made it all the way to this point, please leave a flower emoji, whatever flower emoji you want to leave in your comment down below, because it is springtime now. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe. You can now hype videos on YouTube. That is a new feature, so you'll see instructions for that down below. I think it's as simple as just clicking a button to hype this video. I would really appreciate that. And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!